Welcome, everybody, and thank you for joining us for GenNext Amplify session, Empowering Youth in Our Communities with our special guest, Liz Clarke. If this is your first session with us, thank you so much for making time in your day to be here. And if you've attended a session yesterday and are with us again today, awesome, great to have you back. And before we begin, just want to highlight a few things. Want to note that the United Way, even though we are meeting here virtually, the United Way East Ontario acknowledges that its offices are located in the Ottawa region, which is on the unceded, unsurrendered territory of the Anishinaabe Algonquin Nation, whose presence here reaches back to time immemorial. So once again, thank you for joining us. My name is Amanda Lo Warnakulasuriya, and I will be your host this morning. Once again, feel free to introduce yourself in the chat if you have not done so, and if you'd like to. A little bit about me, I'm a musician and I'm passionate about community building and supporting our youth, especially helping them find their creative spark. So when I'm not performing, I'm usually working on the side as an artist manager, a tour coordinator, grant writer, and educator. And I recently stepped down as program coordinator at Girls Rock Ottawa to rejoin the board. As the director of programming, we are an award-winning community-led organization whose mandate is to provide professional development opportunities, community engagement, and advocacy support for girls, women, and gender diverse individuals. And we want to help them gain equitable access to opportunities in music, both on and off stage. So that's a little bit about me. And there's some links in the chat if you'd like to connect with me there. Thank you so much, Olga. So when I was asked to be part of this GenNext session, I was really excited because I would be introducing Liz Clarke, who I know and have seen how dedicated she is to the community and how much work she has contributed to the youth specifically, and how she has helped youth grow and get access to resources that they need to thrive and succeed and do incredible projects. And obviously I had to say yes. It was a no-brainer for me. And I was so proud to be asked to be part of this session, knowing that it's such a priority for GenNext East Ontario to lift up local youth and provide them with confidence to pursue all of their passions. So for some youth, professional development opportunities are still quite rare, and many young adults, particularly those living in low-income or in and from under-resourced communities and neighborhoods, are struggling to find their way. So thanks to GenNext East Ontario and their supporters, we can help young adults navigate this difficult path. So while I have this opportunity, let me run through some of the tech items so you're all comfortable navigating this platform. You can use the raise hand function at any point to get the GenNext team's attention for assistance. If you all want to raise your hand there, you can go ahead and test that out. Should you have a question for Liz, you can use the Q&A button at the bottom of your screen. So questions can be submitted at any point during the event. So please keep the language and dialogue appropriate and respectful. We want to make sure that this is a welcoming space where everyone can learn and grow together. We have some awesome moderators keeping an eye out for your messages, so they will drop any relevant links in the chat for you if you have any questions. So GenNext Amplify is made possible today thanks to our sponsor, TechSavvy. A big thank you to them for their continued support. That's the Wi-Fi I'm currently using at my home. So thanks so much, TechSavvy. If you're looking for better internet service, a necessity in our current climate, especially as everything is virtual at the moment, our handy moderators will be posting a link in the chat for you to learn more about their services. And we'd also like to thank Rebel.com for sponsoring this session. Rebel.com is here to give your ideas a place to grow online. And we know there are some talented and creative folks with us today with some big ideas. So here to tell us more about their Changemaker program, I'd like to pass it over to Justine Souza from Rebel.com. Justine has been with Rebel for over 5 years, from CS to business development, facilitating community events, and championing the Rebel Changemaker program. So without further ado, I'd like to welcome Justine to the virtual stage.
Thanks so much, Amanda. So really, really happy to be here to talk to you about the Changemaker program. So Changemaker is kind of unique. What we do is we make sure that charitable organizations, not-for-profits, students, people generally just doing good in their community have access to getting online, because an online presence is even more important today than ever before. So we make sure that you don't have a cost barrier preventing you from getting online and from making your mark and making your impact. So we offer our products and services at a severe discount or even for free, making sure that you feel supported all along the way. And that's everything from getting your hosting to your domain name, professional email, anything that can get you and your endeavors online and fully supported. So I'm sure that the chat has already, yeah. Oh, the bid, yes. Check that out as well. But if you have any questions about the Changemaker program, if you're getting online and don't know where to start, feel free to reach out. We're happy to support you. And a huge shout out to Liz. When I found out that this is a session that we could sponsor, our entire team went kind of bonkers. So here we are. Thanks a lot, Amanda. Back to you.
Liz has that effect on everyone. She's incredible. Thank you so much, Justine. And that's great to hear. It's incredible. You're doing great work and looking forward to connecting. We'll drop some more information about Rebel.com's Changemaker program in the chat as we go. So thank you so much once again. So powered by the United Way East Ontario, GenNext is on a mission to inspire and enable the next generation of changemakers and to fuel 100% local impact. So GenNext East Ontario works with communities across Prescott Russell, Ottawa, Lanark, and Renfrew counties. Let us know in the chat which one you're from, if you are from Ottawa. GenNext East Ottawa is a social impact movement for people who want to learn about the unique challenges facing our region and create meaningful local change. So to learn more, you can visit their brand new website and sign up for their newsletter, fitted with local stories of local love, events, and event invites like this one, volunteer opportunities, and so much more. And when you can actually visit at gennexteo.ca. And right in the chat there. And one of the moderators will be continuing to remind you of that information as we go. All right. And a side note, today's ticket proceeds are going back into our communities in support of GenNext East Ontario's causes, which are mental health, youth homelessness, equitable employment, and diversity and inclusion. So thank you for your support. Vulnerable members of our communities are getting the support that they need in ways that they specifically need and have asked for. So thank you so much for being here today. We do have ongoing donations, so even in small amounts, provide to GenNext East Ontario with the reliable funds needed to fuel lasting change in our region. So that's why we created the GenNext Plus program. We'll put the link in the chat for you and for anyone interested in learning more about this group of monthly donors. All right, so now it is time to welcome our session speaker and allow her to take the virtual stage to talk about empowering youth in our communities. Allow me to introduce you to our incredible speaker, Liz Clarke. Also known as Hida Basile, Liz first fell in love with the arts writing stories as a child, and that sparked passion in her that later developed into pursuing spoken word poetry. Her interests in visual artistry, piano composition, event coordination, videography, and public speaking have led her to host her own events for young Black youth and Black folks in Ottawa, to start their own, she started her own business to support women content creators and to collaborate with other artists. She's also an award-winning community builder, educator, and defines herself as a social artist, focusing on using her creative content to influence long-term social impact. Liz, today you will talk to us about how to guide and mentor youth into elevating their potential and abilities to pursue their purpose and dreams. She'll explore how we can show up for our youth in the ways that they need and be a resource to them. And without further ado, please welcome warmly, if you want to do a little thing to welcome Liz at home, please welcome Liz, aka Hida Basile, to our stage.
Hello, thank you so much for that introduction, Amanda. Loved it. Thank you for having me today and for everybody for joining in to hear me speak about empowering youth in our communities. As you already know, my name is Liz Clarke, also go by Hidibasile. That's HTBSLE. It's my first name, Elizabeth, spelled backwards. Yep. So as you know already, I'm a spoken word poet and I was raised in Scarborough, Ontario, which is also the traditional territory of many nations, including the Mississaugas of the Credit, the Anishinaabe, the Chippewa, the Haudenosaunee, and the Wendat peoples. And I'm also so proud to represent my Caribbean roots as a Jamaican and Bajan woman, as you know, got my flag here. So I'm a multidisciplinary creative and I've dedicated myself to learning and growing in the arts for many years, about 10 years in spoken word. So today I'm going to share my stories with you about my youth and how I've been on my journey working with youth and children in various capacities in communities in Toronto and in Ottawa. So I'll be starting this session with a poem. So my hope is for you to relax, to take in this poem with all of your senses, so that in the next few minutes, you can use this as a short meditation or just a pause to reflect. Are you ready? Yeah. The poem is called The Inner Child Revolution. Please take a breath and close your eyes. Now, this is a generation that was meant to be heard, but it's like shepherds have traded their sticks for whips to beat youth with tongue lashes. We're a blind herd trying to be led safely to our caskets. Our dreams weigh clouds down to earth. They burst and fill the sky with bright lights of visions just like fireworks. We whisper our hopes inside until a colorful release of breath arises to give life to a once dead generation, choked up in need of the Heimlich, blown into the winds of desperation. Colors of the aurora borealis setting fire to idle minds. Your fingertips feel alive like an 87-year-old woman cured from arthritis. Your bones feel ignited, ambition is resuscitated. So we pray for no chance of a reoccurring indictment. See, collectively, we take flight and flock together through life's storms and bad weather. We drift in seas of disappointment without an anchor. Brave disease in our spirits, the less we remember. See, we get taught in the same classrooms that destroy us. If not an academic, we are sentenced to take orders for the rest of existence, putting the weight of the world on the shoulders of an infant. They get persistent in our demises to bear witness, but witness this. Doctors, lawyers, artists, and presidents in your presence who stand as activists against the slabs with the white polished names that sit on desks in offices of big time corporations, on the desks of principals that expel more than they reach out to influence. For teachers, child and adult bullies, siblings, pops and mom, for all the people that hinder a child's fun, we are the revolution of grown infants fighting without guns. We are an army not equipping to start a war, but armed enough with words, tongue swords to spread the word. We may no longer wear innocence, but you never raised us pure. Our minds have been set free in theory, but we're still in bondage at our cores. We are connected to a leash that pulls and tugs whenever it feels that rather pull us back than pull us forward. But you see, this is the generation that was meant to be heard. But it seems as though shepherds have traded the sticks for whips to beat youth with tongue lashes. These are the times when those older in age will use words with no weight to convict and to slay hopes and not to convey their own crippled ambitions that once were dreams, now a dead script to an under-budget film. You must give credit to whoever convinced you weren't worth direction, weren't worth correction, not worthy of the investment. They did a good job of reassuring you you wouldn't be anything more than their own failures. This revolution will see past their projections. We're investing on our insides, our spirits, our anchoring. We're answering every call made from within so we know exactly who is not entering. We recognize all of the whispers inside as our own voices, because conditioning is our vice and a potion. So these schools need to revolutionize the teachings that take place in these classrooms. Ensure each day, each student is invited to be inspired. You must retire your pride and invite in wonder and a burning fire. Now for inspiration, elders, pay attention. Take a lesson from our kids when they become enlightened, enchanted, engrossed, when they wonder enough to wander. when asking questions feels like a quest. Don't condemn their fantasies with a reality check, because reality is where we most need the magic. Their dreams weigh clouds down to earth. They burst and fill the sky with bright lights of visions just like fireworks. And how do you launch a firework? With a spark. But we tell youth too late to let their light shine, when all of their lives we've hid them under a bushel to make average. The future is formed by their littlest of footprints that will pave a way, engrave a space and a legacy the moment they breathe a breath in this earthbound romanticized dynasty ridden with childless entities. So a word to the childless elderly: take us in all of our phases, when our passions are endless and our commitment is wavering, when we take up space and use sidewalks as fashion runways, and before we outgrow having celebrities as our idols, when dancing can't get our feet to stop tapping, when our art speaks louder than words spoken at our families' dinner tables. Elders, do not strive to raise us broken. Straighten our backs and our chins. Firmly and endearingly whisper to us words of hope and encouragement, or yell it loud so no child goes without ever hearing it. To every child in infancy or hidden from plain sight, whisper your hopes from inside. See it as a colorful release of breath rising to give life to a once dead generation. Those whose inner insides are childless, choked up in need of the Heimlich, because this is a generation that is meant to be heard. We're no longer a blind herd trying to be led safely to our caskets. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for listening to that poem. That's a really, really special poem for me, because I wrote it when I was in high school. And for this event, I decided, let me go back and revise this and bring who I am now to this poem. So this is the revised poem that I did in high school. So thank you for being here to witness this. So, I'm so excited to speak today. I'm gonna be sharing some stories from my own adolescence, from my journey working with youth. So I'm gonna start talking about the mentors that I yearned for when I was growing up. I'm a multidisciplinary creative, and a lot of the skills that I developed on my own. I did start taking piano when I was young, and I got to like level 2, but then I started teaching myself through YouTube since then. And a lot of the skills that I built in videography, photography, were sparked somewhere where there was mentorship, say school in photography class, graphic design class. But then I had to take the ownership to develop these skills on my own. And I was always looking for a mentor, always looking for someone to just see me. I wanted to be seen. I'm a Leo. That's my zodiac sign. So I crave being seen and taking up the spotlight, and just, I love that. It excites me. That's why I'm a performer. That's why I'm a host. That's why I do the things that I do. And I always found myself in a position where I didn't feel like there was anybody really investing in me. Sure, I can look back at my journey, and I attended a lot of church, and I volunteered a lot in church. I was there about 3 times a week in church. I was working with youth ever since I was a youth. And some of the attention that I wanted on myself, I decided if I'm not going to get it in the ways that I need, then why not give it out to the youth? So even in my youth, I was there and giving what I wanted to the youth that I was working with. And I've worked in a lot of places in Ottawa, a lot of summer camps. Even the first summer camp I ran on my own was a few years back at NROC, and I decided I wanted to create a whole program. So ever since then, after that, I was in child and youth care and graduated from Algonquin College as a child and youth care practitioner. What? Any Algonquin folks in the building? Perhaps. But yeah, I graduated from child and youth care, and I've been working inside schools since. I was an experiential learning facilitator for a little while, working directly in schools, teaching filmmaking and civic engagement, doing programs like that. And I learned a lot working with youth. I learned a lot from youth, straight from their mouths, and the type of support that they're craving from community, and some of the obstacles that are in the way that are stopping our youth from really getting to their potential. In the poem I just shared is, how do you launch a firework with a spark? And sometimes the youth are just looking for the spark within themselves. And of course, we want to encourage them to be able to do that on their own, be able to really amplify their own voices, but they need support. We all need support. And that's what's so great about having a community that is focused on amplifying youth, that is focused on their dreams and getting them to their next best level. Because a lot of us sometimes miss out on our own opportunities, and we're stuck in the past where people weren't looking out for us or didn't provide us resources. And the way to change that is to be the change, is to the things that you wanted for yourself, being able to offer that to the people in our communities, right? So a lot of the needs that I've witnessed are a lot of needs I learned in community organizations or representation. It's a really, really big thing for our youth to see themselves in our communities. And a lot of the organizations I've worked with, the support staff or the frontline workers may have been Black people and people of color, but then when you go up, it's you go up and who's directing these organizations, and you look and you see it's people that don't look like our youth. So we're encouraging our youth to aspire for bigger things, to be inspired to create change and do all these things, but people who are creating change or at the top of these ladders don't look like them. And it's a huge thing when I go into schools. And youth just connect with me. I'm from Scarborough, so a lot of the slang that I use, it really connects with the youth. And that's something that I just have just because of who I am. So a big thing with representation is having people who are there that are just themselves, right? It's not filling a quota, but people who have the same lived experiences as our youth. So they can look and say, oh, you used to live in community housing, now you own your own house? Oh my goodness, that can happen. We can move out of our situation. And they need to be encouraged in that way, right? And some of the things that I hope to see in a lot of organizations is a commitment to combating anti-Black racism. And when I go into schools and I go into community organizations, I make sure that that's on the list, whether it's through inclusion and diversity programs, or even if it's just daily steps and actionable things that the organization is establishing to combat anti-Black racism. There's a lot of culture, community organization type culture that really infringe on kind of amplifying youth and their potential. And I make sure that my voice is heard in these communities and that I'm representing when I go in and work with youth. And a big thing for me when I was growing up was that I didn't feel like people were taking me seriously. I felt like I was so smart sometimes. I felt like, oh my God, I know how to do these things. I'm brilliant. And then I'd go into schools and you get slapped with like a bad mark and you're like, oh my God, who am I? Will I have a future? Will universities accept me? And a lot of when I talk to youth, they're faced with these societal pressures of you gotta make it to university. Once you get to university, you're gonna get a good job because you know this is how it was back in my day. And honestly, the youth are seeing right through it. I was in a video chat the other day with some of my youth that I worked with directly in schools when we could. And they said it's a whole scam. The education system right now is a scam. And they said, it's all fake. I'm not learning anything. It's all fake. And they're so frustrated. And when I go into these schools, I can just hear and see how frustrated our youth are. A lot of them are so angry that they don't have a place for their voices to be heard. They want people to listen to them, but no one's really listening to them. No one's taking the time to hear their thoughts. Our youth are brilliant. They are so brilliant. They have so many ideas. I'm going to classrooms and there are youth saying, I want to create an app. I'm working on an app development right now. And it's like, what? Oh my goodness. That's so exciting. I wish that we could champion you. I wish that we had access to resources for youth early on in their journeys. Could you imagine a world where youth, the start of their creative journeys, they decide that they want to be a photographer and we're able to provide them with the resources to pursue photography. And that if they decide that it's not for them, that we're allowing them to try different things. And I think that's what's so great about when I talk about inner child and I talk about the inner child revolution in that poem, is what I mean is getting back to the things that we used to love and had passion for as children. And when I say youth, I'm not just talking to the age bracket of 18 to 29. I know it could change all the time, depending on what organization you work with. Youth, it could be anything. I'm talking to every single person, because your inner child lives within you. There's a child in you that is seeking for your attention, that is seeking to play and do things, childlike things within you. And I think it's really important that when we do work with youth, that we do operate from that place a little of that there's that spark in us that wants to wonder enough to wander, that wants to create, and we're curious. I see a lot of youth get stifled and shut down for a lot of their ideas that are just bigger than them. They don't have the resources right now. And a lot of that encouragement that youth are seeking for, it really comes from some adults that are working in their lives. A lot of the youth that I work with go to church all the time. So when I'm talking to people work with them in church, you got to meet them where they're at. Wherever the youth are, you have a role. If youth are in your community organization, your church, wherever you are, you have a role to be a mentor. Why not inspire? Why not connect with youth that are looking to be great? Why not be that person that looks at them and says, you're going to be, you are something, you are great, and affirm them. A lot of youth are needing affirmation, even in ourselves. A lot of us, our inner child, are needing a lot of affirmations. So I started doing affirmations myself, and it's kind of corny. And you stand in front of a mirror and say, I am fantastic. I am smart. I am these things. But it really, really does make a difference that for our youth to stand on their own 2 feet and see the worth in themselves. It's really huge for them to be able to do that. A lot in families, working children and youth in families. I think our families play such a big role in shaping who we are. And a lot of people hold on to a lot of familiar trauma, and the inner child healing really does help with some of the things that really afflicted us in our childhoods, and some of the voices that are still stuck in our head about who we are and limit us to the things that the things that we may have dreamed of doing as a child. There are voices in there that telling us we can't do it, and to break out of those voices, I truly believe in inner child healing. And I wanted to talk a bit about the communities that we're creating for youth right now, and the role of accountability. Our communities need adults who are creating systems that are transparent and accountable. Because when I work with youth, sometimes I'm a little hesitant to send them out, not knowing who works at certain organizations, because there are people in positions of power that are not using their power for justice, and they're not using their powers to uplift and to build. So I think that's a huge thing when we're talking about how are we going to empower our youth. It's creating systems, and the structural components and the backbone of systems need to prioritize accountability and transparency and responsibility, and get out of this mentality of silos and sharing resources and information. Because why would we not share information and share what we know and bring our value to certain people, right? So why not? And I think that a lot of the work that we need to do is has to be rooted in a commitment for Indigenous sovereignty and for Black liberation, because I think those are super pillars that will transform the way our communities operate. And I believe in education and mentorship and wellness. And I think any of us that are working with youth need to be operating from a place of wellness, that we are well with it ourselves, and that we are providing resources that are good for us and good for the people that we're working with. And that's such a marker. Would this be helpful for you? And if it's not, then why would it be something that you feel like it's helpful for other people, right? You want to treat yourself well. If you're not treating yourself well, how can you treat other people well? You got to prioritize that and be yourself. You love when you're yourself. I'm saying we sometimes need to humble ourselves when they're in the presence of youth. Sometimes youth know a little more than us. Not necessarily more, but they have a different perspective on things. And just listening in, it could change your life. Sometimes I'm like, oh wow, that's how you really think? Explore that, trace that back. Tell me where that thought comes from. And that's really important when I work with you, but it's also for myself. Why am I saying the things I'm saying? Where did this come from? And I just trace back the thoughts, and you find out where your thoughts are originating, right? And I'm going to really encourage and plug a couple books, because I didn't get here just by chance, like I didn't get to the mentality I got by chance. I had to read a lot. I had to connect with a lot of people. So I have to plug books. I have to. Bell hooks. Oh, if you work with youth and you're not reading bell hooks, I'm going to encourage you to read bell hooks. This is a great series, her teaching series, teaching community, teaching to transgress. Great books. There's a third one called Teaching Critical Thinking. That's an amazing, all three of these books are amazing books and taught me so much about what our communities need to look like to champion our youth and to push the needle. If you're an ally, how can you be an asset? How can you push the needle forward, right? And I highly recommend those books. And I'm going to recommend this one for those that are working with Black youth and may not be the representation that I was mentioning. You're not a Black person, or you're not well versed in working with, or some of the challenges that Black youth are going through. I think this is a really good book. It's about indigeneity and race and critical spiritual literacy in the African diaspora. I started reading it because I started finding out about my Nigerian roots, and I wanted to learn more about the Yoruba folks. And it's a great book, and there's even a little section at the back of it because, and it's a letter to teachers. So I'm not going to read the open letter to teachers, but I'm going to read a quote that I feel kind of summarizes my poem, what I've said here today, and what I've shared. And it goes, in order for us as poor and oppressed people to become a part of society that is meaningful, the system under which we now exist has to be radically changed. This means that we are going to have to learn to think in radical terms. I use the term radical in its original meaning, getting down to and understanding the root cause. It means facing a system that does not lend itself to your needs and devising means by which you change that system. That is easier said than done. But one of the things that has to be faced is, in the process of wanting to change that system, how much have we got to do to find out who we are, where we come from, and where we are going? This is a quote by Ella Baker, as cited in Ramsey 2003, just so you know. And I think that's a beautiful, beautiful quote. And if we are on this journey to radicalize these systems and make systems that work for youth, that work for their ideas, for their brilliance, that champion them, that show them the truth of their potential and their abilities and their heart. And we have to do things differently. We have to come up with ways that are really meeting youth where they're at. We have to listen to them. They have to spearhead a lot of the things that they need. A lot of the resources and accessibility to these resources have to be given. And last year I started during May and June, I started the Black Flood, where I was just encouraging Black creatives to push their content, their creations on the social timeline, and then decided to raise funds for some of the youth in my community. And I raised money and gave 3 youth $500 each. They didn't even know the money was coming to them, but it was just, I told them, I've seen you work in our communities. I've seen the passion that you've had. Go and use this money to build something. Go and use it for your creativity. And I think we need to just start providing opportunities out of nowhere to youth. Why do they have to apply? Applying is nice, it lets you sift through who's, is deserving of what you offer. But I think there's something of just gifting our youth when we see that they're in need, when we see that they have a passion for something. Fuel their passion, be a fuel, right? Spark that within them. So I want to wrap this speech up with you and just tell you that I'm doing things in my community. I'm a person of action, so anything I say, I'm going to back up with actions. I am in the midst of doing my own workshops right now called Master Your Creative Journey for youth and young adults. And it's just taking them through the journey of what it takes to be a creative person. And it's not specifically in any discipline is welcome. And it's just encouraging our emerging artists to recognize where they are in their journey and the things that it's going to need to take to build, and giving them support. So if that's something that interests you, I know they're going to drop my contacts in there, and you can find that link in my link tree and connect. I have lots of projects on the go. I have Air Force Blacks coming to SOG Club SAW in July. So I will be doing an Air Force Black second edition. If you don't know what Air Force Blacks is, you're in for a treat. And that's going to be taking place at Club SAW. It's been really, really great to chat with you all today. I'm so excited that I got to do this and got to share my perspectives. I hope that it has been valuable for you. And yes, Amanda, are you? Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Liz. That was incredible. Obviously, we've seen firsthand how you are making a big difference for local youth everywhere that you go as well. And your passion really shines through when you speak about it. And I've seen firsthand how you make youth feel. You make them feel seen, you make them feel supported and loved. And I stand behind that all the time. And you offer that support to them no matter what part of their journey they're on, which is something that we need to keep in mind as we move forward in these spaces. So thank you so much for everything that you do. You are a beacon of hope in this community, and I appreciate all the work that you've done and can't wait to see what more you do. And as mentioned, don't forget to check the chat, folks, for some useful links on how to connect with Liz and stay up to date on all of her projects. And feel free to post a thank you in the comments to her for her great presentation. And yes, so we do have some questions coming up. So yeah, once again, thanks, Liz. Stick around. Got some questions? All right, we are going to start. So a reminder that if you have questions for Liz, please submit them now in the Q&A box, and we will get right to them. All right, here we go. So we have question number 1. Liz, always inspired by you. Can you tell us if you have any more music coming out soon? I still stream Just Getting By.
Very good question. The thing is, I have so much music that I am sitting on. I have something that I'm calling the Velvet Vault. My Velvet Vault of music is just overflowing. So I'm hoping that I can get really thoughtful about the music I want to release and then offer that to the public and bring them into my journey. But I might be releasing music as NFTs. If you do not know what that is, look into NFTs. My NFTs are going to be coming soon. You might even see my beautiful work here as NFTs to come. So yeah.
Incredible. Another question here is, how has being part of the arts community affected your life positively? And how can we support more mentorship in the arts?
Yes, definitely. I, as an artist, has been supported since day one in my journey of spoken word poetry. A charity came into my high school to teach us the 4 elements of hip hop, and that's how I got into spoken word. So there's so many opportunities for mentorship with youth, and I think one-on-one mentorship is really important. I currently am working for a community organization in Toronto called Nia Center, doing mentorship through their program. That's where I'm doing my Master Your Creative Journey workshop right now. And I think there are more opportunities like one-on-one mentorship and just sharing of skills and resources, I think is just super important to offer our youth at any stage that they are in. So I think transparent and accountable community organizations that are doing that and bridging kind of mentorship and bridging opportunities for mentorship are a great tool, I think.
Super great, thank you. And well, this is like a bit of a follow-up on this one. So why do you think it's important to have why do you think it's important for youth to have mentors?
Oh, it is so important because life is hard. If we're really being real, like, life is so hard.
Hard to relate.
and friends are great, family is great, but when you know that someone is like focused on your journey and helping you create impact in your life and meeting you where you're at with resources, wisdom, and encouragement. When someone can just see you and speak life into you, that is huge. Sometimes you just I go into schools and like, did you know you're good at this? And they're like, what? I'm good at this? And it's like, oh my God, has no one ever told you this? And I think like from the get-go, if we're giving youth mentorship abilities and we're providing them with like transparent, accountable, well people to give mentorship, watch the world change. We'll watch the world change before our eyes. Yeah.
That's so true. Can't wait for that. For more youth to have more of these opportunities.
Right,
starting
Amanda?
today. Yeah. Yep. Starting today. Another question we have here is, imposter syndrome is real. So what is your advice to youth about building confidence and moving beyond the voice that says, I'm not good enough?
Oh yeah, imposter syndrome is the realist. And I think it's a good question. And what I've had to do is embrace who I am, embrace my purpose, and develop my skills. Part of overcoming imposter syndrome is kind of figuring out what makes me feel like an imposter. Is it because I don't understand something? Is it because I don't have training in something? Is it because I feel like I'm lacking somewhere? I got to figure out where that imposter syndrome is coming from. If it comes from social media and seeing everybody succeed all the time on the timeline, that's a lot, right? So you got to figure out maybe if you need to reduce your time on social medias, or if you need to develop a skill. It's really just facing the reality of your feelings. What is making you feel like an imposter? And affirmations are so huge. When you start reminding yourself of the things that you've done, and you start celebrating yourself for where you've been, what you've accomplished, and the things that you've been able to do already, like that's huge. When you start speaking life into your life every single day, and you really start to see yourself for who you are, you'll realize there's literally nobody better than you. Sure, people have different skills, that you might like someone's art a bit more than yours, but who is literally better than you? Who am I going to attest to being better than me? Nobody. I cannot. You have to really believe in yourself. And you have to sow those seeds of belief every day. You have to make sure that it's actionable and practical, that you're doing these things, Yeah, that's what
That's a great answer. Fake it till you make it. Affirm it to yourself every day.
Yes.
Thanks so much, Liz. We have another question. If you have any questions, folks, continue to put them into the Q&A box. Oh, there we go. All right. So one question here says, sometimes folks are scared to get into a mentorship role with youth because preconceptions about what the age barrier means and not truly connecting with them. How do you recommend people get over that anxiety?
I would say we have to humble ourselves. And what I mentioned before with the transparency and the accountability, when you are yourself and you humble yourself, you are just entering a space with all you have, which is you. You're entering a role of mentorship with what you offer, which is you. You don't have to mask or not pretend to know things. If you don't know things, like be straight up. Be like, oh, I never thought about this before. I didn't know that. Youth really, really vibe with people who are just themselves. For people who understand who they are and are just bringing, a sense of joy to their life. Like I've seen that with youth. They just like being around people who like make them happy. So I'd say get to know yourself a little more and figure out where those anxieties come from. It potentially could be that imposter syndrome, not knowing what you bring that is of value. But then start doing some inventory on who you are and be like, no, I've done this, I experienced this, I traveled here, and take note of it, because there are a lot of things you don't even know you've been through or done that a lot of people connect with. A lot of youth are looking for someone who has a sense of understanding of certain concepts and certain things that are happening in the world. You could really be that person. Everybody has something to share. You got to believe that you have something to share and give, and that you are valuable, you are worthy. And really standing firm in belief in who you are and sparking that confidence in yourself, because why not?
That is so true. That is, yeah, I'm seeing someone just echoed that in the chat. Read my mind. I'm going to read one last question. Thank you, folks, for submitting your Q&As. But this one asks, any tips for building a strong community amongst youth online, especially during the pandemic?
Oh yeah, it's so difficult. I miss the youth so, so, so much. And I'll just hear from them like here and there messages. Hey Liz, how you doing? Or I'll see them on Instagram. And I know back in the day when I was early in child and youth care, we weren't really supposed to get youth Instagrams and do all that. But it's like we're building accountable and transparent communities. And that's really just what's necessary for the time and era that we're in. And what I've been doing is workshops, which have been great. I've done it for Girls Rock, and I've done it for a lot of other community organizations. And I'm hoping that more people can get into the habit of creating series or monthly things in their own communities on Zoom for youth. I want to start doing, but it's a lot to take on. So you really have to be prepared to, for things like that. But I think creating more opportunities for us to gather in meaningful ways, and whether that's and consistency, because when things kind of are just all over the place, you kind of lose people, and youth need that consistency if you're going to bring them on board for anything. So I'm hoping that just more creative ideas for engagement. And whether that, TikTok, oh my goodness, youth love TikTok. If you're a personality, if you're an influencer type S person, get on some social medias and just be yourself. It's easier said than done, because I have been dreading getting on TikTok and doing things like that. But I think people just want to see who we are in our lives, in any way that we can show ourselves to people and to youth. They're gonna eat that up. People are looking for authenticity. They're looking for real people to connect with. And if you're authentic, if you're a real person to connect with, we need to stop hiding, and we need to step out into our light and start sowing seeds of light into the world, And it really does start with connecting with youth. They're the torch. They're carrying the torch, While we're gonna be elderly, they're gonna be the ones that are on this earth championing youth that are in their time. So I think being yourself and just getting on these platforms in authentic ways slowly. Yeah. Pace yourself as you get into social media. Yeah.
Authenticity is key. Oh yes, the chat is loving TikTok. So we agree. Do all the dances, do all the talks. All right. Thank you so much, everyone, for submitting your questions. That is all the time we have. And it has gone by so quickly, mostly because we enjoyed every single minute of Liz speaking her truth and inspiring us. So thank you to everyone who submitted questions, for attending. And I want to say thanks again to Liz and everyone for spending your lunch hour with us today. It's a tough time. We're living in strange times, but the fact that you took some time off from your day to spend listening to Liz talk about the community and how to support youth in our communities is so important that you're taking this time. So once again, a huge shout out to our program sponsor, Tech Savvy, and our session sponsor, Rebel.com. And none of this would be possible without them. So thank you so, so much. As a reminder, please go to GenNextEO.ca and sign up for the newsletter. That link is in the chat for you momentarily, and sign up today and be the first to hear from GenNext. And if you are interested in learning more about GenNext and want to make a donation, your support could go a long way to help local youth thrive and fuel lasting change in our communities. So that will be shared in the chat as well. There's many ways that you can help. And also don't forget that we have another session lined up this afternoon starting at 1 p.m. Got 30 minutes. You can go stretch your legs, refill your coffee, have a little chat with your plants. I know we're all growing plants right now. So, so join us for another conversation, and it will be about inclusion in employment for all spectrums of diversity. And at 4:30 p.m., there's a networking and happy hour happening with Dominion City Brewing Co. So the link to join is in your inbox. Once again, thank you everyone for making this session so wonderful and so fun. And thank you, Liz, for bringing, once again, so much joy and inspiration and hope into this space, even a virtual space. Thank you for all that you do, and can't wait to see what more projects you are about to release soon. And thank you again to the GenNext team for putting this together. Thanks so much. And yeah, everyone here, great to see you. Hope you all have a wonderful day. Please stay safe and stay hydrated. The sun is shining, so.
Thank you, everybody. Bye.
These days I'm tired.
Hey Liz, should we do the wave?
Oh yeah, connect it.